Hey y'all, it's David with Beagles on Fire again. We're going through this series on types of dogs, types of beagles, types of what we use commonly to call different types of our beagles that are in our pack. And today I want to talk to you about the track dog. And you say, okay, well, we've talked about some of the other ones. I know we've talked about a jump dog. We've talked about a lead dog. Now today we're going to talk about a track dog. Now your lead dog will have a lot of the characteristics of this if it's a good lead dog, but a track dog doesn't necessarily have to be the lead dog. I had a dog named Maggie years ago, a really awesome black and tan. Now Maggie was never going to be the lead dog. Maggie was going to jump a lot of rabbits. She hunted her tail off and really jumped a lot of rabbits, but what Maggie really did is Maggie controlled the race from the 4th, 5th, 6th position, wherever she was in the pack. Maggie didn't care anything about having to be out front. Maggie was just steady. She was not a Me Too dog. She was a hard hunting dog. But Maggie had that unique characteristic that she would gear up or gear back. If you put her with dogs that wanted to run it faster, okay, I'll run with you, and could hold her own. If you run her with some dogs that were more of a dead medium speed, she'd slow down. So she'd gear up or gear down. And where that really came in handy was when we had some really tough tracking days. Scenting days were really rough. Maggie would get there and grab hold to the track, and she'd take it, and she'd keep rolling with it. And when the dogs in front of her lost it, Maggie would just keep trugging along and just keep going. And she, next thing you know, there she come across and took it, and the other dogs would run back to her and get in there and go on with it and get out in front of her a little bit, but not, I mean, she was still part of the pack. It wasn't like she was behind them or anything. She just didn't have to be in the lead. She was just right there in the middle of the pack, and just an awesome dog. That was probably one of the best tracking dogs I've ever had, but she did have the ability to jump as well. So a track dog is going to be one that knows what to do when they get their scent on, when they get a hold of the rabbit scent. They're gonna be just really good at running that track. And you got some dogs that are real good at jumping it. We talked about a jump dog in the last video, and a jump dog may not always be the best at running the track. Now sometimes you'll have ones that'll do it all, but as you're putting a pack together, you need to look at that dog sometimes that maybe is there in the middle of your pack, that is constantly straightening out things that the ones in front of it, maybe they can't get it going. You've got that one dog with a super nose and just has the ability to run the track. That's a very valuable dog because they'll keep things going. The lead dog keeps things going from up front most of the time, but sometimes he can mess up a little bit or get off the track a little bit. A real good track dog can straighten all that out. And as we have different people that have leadership abilities, and there's times when we have to get behind leaders. Sometimes we have to be the leader. Sometimes we have to get behind the leaders. But we need to be one of those people that is constantly trying everything we can to push toward the common goal. And if somebody bobbles a little bit and gets off track, they can count on us to just consistently try to move things forward. I want to read you a couple of different verses I found. In the Bible, it says path a lot of times. So, in Psalm 23, 2 and 3, it says, and you know this if you know Psalm 23, He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for His name's sake. I'm not trying to change the word of God, but I think you can take the word path and you can interchange that with tracks, since we're talking about beagles and running rabbits. If you said, well, which path did the rabbit take? You're saying the same thing if you say, which track did the rabbit take? Or where's the track at? We're talking about the same thing. So I'll read that again and insert the word track. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in tracks of righteousness for His name's sake. We should be pursuing righteousness. And if we're following Christ, that's exactly where He's going to take us, because He's the ultimate track dog. If we stay on track with Him, then we will follow Him and we'll be fine. Another verse in Proverbs 3:6 says, in all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your paths. He shall make straight your paths, is what it's saying. Once again, you could say tracks. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your tracks. If you're pursuing God and following his tracks, you're going to be fine. Here's another one. All the paths of the Lord, this is Psalm 25:10. All the paths of the Lord are steadfast, love, and faithfulness for those who keep his covenant and his testimonies. All the tracks of the Lord are steadfast, love, and faithfulness for those who keep his covenant and his testimonies. You know, as you think about the walk of life, there are several paths we can go down. There are several tracks we can take. And you know, there are dogs that you run out there and they don't always take the right track. You know, maybe they do something called backtracking. And you say, well, what is that? I'm not familiar with the term. Maybe you're not a person who runs dogs all the time, but you're watching this. Backtracking is simply running the track backwards. That doesn't mean the dog's running backwards. It means it's turned around and is headed in the wrong direction. The rabbit went forward and the dog is going backward. It's tracking this way when the rabbit went that way. That can happen sometimes. You know, you think about it, it's really a phenomenal thing of nature. If a rabbit was running this way and the dog come to the track this way, how do they know whether to go this way or that way? It's their nose. As they figure out what gets hotter, they know which way the rabbit went. And if the track is getting colder going the other way, then they're going to know to turn around and go back the other way pretty quick. So that's just nature's way that a lot of these dogs have of figuring that out if they've got a good nose on them and they're smart. And, you know, we have to watch about ourselves backtracking, because if we're pursuing and trying to go forward, sometimes the devil's going to get us turned around and we're going to be backtracking. You know, he wants to talk about our past all the time. And so sometimes we turn around and we go back the other way. And, you know, there's a verse in the Bible that says, he who looks behind him when he is plowing is not fit. In other words, in the old days, picture the old days, some of you young people would have to probably research this. You know, they didn't always have a tractor and a plow like you see today when you see farmers going. They used to use mules and horses and different things to pull a plow forward. And you can imagine whether you'd be doing a straight line if you were looking behind you. So you'd fix your eyes on something and work straight toward that. And that's what we have to do. We have to fix our eyes on the things of God and pursue that and not be distracted. If you've got a rabbit dog, they've got to follow the track of the rabbit. They cannot be out here being distracted by, we ran across the scent of a deer. We ran across the scent of a bobcat, a fox, a coyote. So we're going to run that. No, you need a dog that's going to stay on that track and knows the difference between the right track and the wrong track. And unfortunately in life, there's a whole lot of people that they just don't seem like they care what track they're running. You know, they're persuaded here and there and yonder and every which way. A good rabbit dog, if they know that they have the scent of a rabbit under their nose, if they've got a hot scent under their nose, they are not going to be pulled off of that track. Now, I hear guys all the time, pay attention because I'm fixing to say something that could be, some people might find that they disagree with this, but I'm going to say it anyway, and it has to do with the rabbit world. I hear guys at different times say, I'm going to tell you, if I want to, I can just call them off the track. If they're running that rabbit and I don't like the way it sounds, I can just call them off of it. I'm going to tell you now, if you've got the type dog that you need to have, in my opinion, my dogs that I keep, if they're running a rabbit, you can stand there and scream and holler and do everything you want to do. And they're not coming off of that track. Now, I'm not talking about when it breaks down. I'm talking when that track is red hot and they are wide open. You're not calling the dog off of that track. I don't know why you'd want to, but I can't call mine off the track. And if you can call your dog off the track, I've said this several times before, but if you can call your dog off of a red-hot rabbit track, that dog doesn't want to be there as bad as I want my dog to be there. Because when my dog is running a rabbit, I want them to be deaf as they can be to anything else that's going on. I want them totally focused on running and pursuing that rabbit when it's hot. Now you say, well, David, what would you do if you were in a situation, and you can pull up a hypothetical situation or a real situation that could happen? Maybe this rabbit takes off and goes in a direction you don't want it to go. It's over on some neighbor or where it's not supposed to be, or it gets out near a road where it could be hit by a car. Well, that's the only instance I can think of that I would want to shock my dog for running a rabbit. But I try to stay away from situations like that if at all possible. Every now and then you might get a rabbit up and it might go a long, long ways. And I have had that happen before. But I'm just telling you that me just calling my dogs, that's not going to happen where I can just say, y'all come on, let's get off that rabbit. Let's come over here. They're not going to listen. I don't want them to. And that's the problem a lot of times. We got a lot of people out here that say, I'm following God. I'm following the tracks. And the simplest little thing distracts them and pulls them off. They're not focused like they need to be. When we find ourselves being easily distracted like that, we're not focused on the things we need to be focused on. We should be so wrapped up in focusing on doing right that when things come along that want to make us try to do wrong, we just keep on rolling. And that's what a track dog will do. That's really pursuing the track. And I'm trying to think of some different things else about a track dog that you could say. But a lot of times with a young dog, a very valuable track dog would do great with a young dog. And you say, well, why is that? Because the young dog may be easier distracted. They're easily distracted sometimes when they're young. They might want to hit that deer, but if that dog is running that rabbit and there's a whole lot of excitement going on and nobody else is paying attention to that deer track, well, chances are they're going to go on and pursue what the others are pursuing. And as they get more mature, they understand why. Now, we're not trying to teach dogs just to follow other dogs. We want them to know why they're going in that direction. And, I think as parents and as mature people, we don't want people just following us because I said so. That's a cop-out that we all as parents have used. It's a cop-out that our parents used. Why do I need to do this? Because I said so. I understand the meaning behind that. But really, when a kid asks why, it's a good opportunity to explain to them why. Why do we go to church on Sunday, Dad? Because I said so. Okay, when do they figure out what you're really trying to go to church for on Sunday? And if they see you go to church on Sunday and live like the devil Monday through Saturday, naturally, they're not going to want to go to church. Why would they want to? See, we've got to pursue the track of righteousness 7 days a week. I know we all slip up. We all have things. I'm not saying God doesn't want us to have any fun. And I'm not one of those guys that believes, if you're not reading your Bible and praying 24 hours a day, you're wrong. I don't think that's what God intended for us to do. But I do know this, that God intended for us to honor him in all that we do. And so that's what we have to do, is we have to pursue the track of righteousness. And we have to trust God, our lead dog, to take us in the right direction. And we need to make sure that we stay on that track and not get off on the other things in life that are so easy to get off on. So that's my challenge for you today is, what kind of track are you running? Are you easily distracted? Are you one of the ones that's trying to pull people off of the track that they're running? Sometimes you get a dog, and it happens, you get a dog that everybody else is running it, and all of a sudden there's a little bit of a breakdown. And then this dog's over here just barking for nothing. Loose mouth dog we talked about, babbling. Everybody leaves their track to come thinking they have something. They don't have anything. Then the dog's got to try to go back to where they were to pursue that one or find a whole nother one to run. We don't want to be that type dog. We want to be the one that's running the track. And when we don't have a hot track under our nose, we shut up and pursue where we can. And find one and run it. And run it whether anybody else runs it or not. In my example of Maggie was running with the pack. Everybody else kind of broke down. Maggie would come right on across, and she would keep going. And if others came, that's fine. If not, Maggie was going to go on by herself. But everybody always came, because you could always depend on Maggie. And that's the thing. When you open your mouth, can people depend on you that it's going to be for good? Are you going to be one of those opening your mouth because you're going to gossip and you're going to run your mouth like what we talked about with the loose mouth dog, or, false barking and different things of that nature? So what track are you running? Are others able to count on you to not backtrack, to not be distracted? That's my challenge for you today. Run the track of righteousness, and you will find happiness in that as you pursue God. God bless y'all. You have a great, wonderful day.